It was always going to be a difficult battle as two former Pep Guardiola disciples faced off in a tense London derby at Stamford Bridge. Enzo Maresca and Mikel Arteta went head-to-head, and in the end, both managers were forced to share the points. Chelsea won, Arsenal won. Chelsea were dealt a huge blow early on, with Moises Caicedo receiving a red card in the 30th minute. But despite going down to 10 men, Maresca's side showed incredible structure, discipline, and adaptability. So the big question is, how did Enzo Maresca manage to secure a point against the league leaders, arguably the best team in Europe, while playing a man down? Both managers set up in a 4-2-3-1, mirroring each other as they tried to cancel out one another's build-up patterns, pressing triggers, and main areas of progression. Before the red card, Arsenal followed their usual possession structure. Calafiori pushed into the left half space, allowing them to build with a back three. The idea was to overload central areas. If the opposition defended in a midfield four, Arsenal could go man for man, and if they defended with a midfield three, Arsenal would have numerical superiority through the middle. Either way, the plan was to dominate central zones and progress cleanly up the pitch. To counter this, Maresca set Chelsea up in a strict man-to-man press, making sure Arsenal players had no time or space on the ball. Pedro Neto pressed Timber, Enzo Fernandez stayed on Zubimendi, Reece James tracked Declan Rice, and João Pedro stepped out to press whichever Arsenal centre-back, Mosquera or Hincapié, had possession. Estevão followed Calafiori whenever he pushed inside, Caicedo stayed tight on Esse, and Cucurella matched Saka on the flank. With every Arsenal player accounted for, the build-up became uncomfortable and predictable. Arsenal found it difficult to progress through the center, constantly being forced wide into areas where Chelsea's fullbacks were strong enough to slow or stop the play. The plan relied on discipline and execution, and Chelsea delivered it well. Arsenal were unable to get into their rhythm as Chelsea's man-marking scheme repeatedly broke their usual patterns of progression. To bypass Chelsea's man-to-man press, Arteta implemented several rotational patterns designed to distort Chelsea's structure and open fresh passing lanes. Arsenal didn't stay in fixed positions. They constantly tried to manipulate their markers, dragging Chelsea players away from their original assignments to create momentary advantages in the build-up. One of the most important rotations involved Declan Rice dropping from the double pivot into the defensive line. By stepping alongside Mosquera, Hincapié, and Timber, Arsenal temporarily formed a back four in their first phase of build-up. This deeper positioning of Rice forced Reece James, who was tasked with tracking him, to follow him all the way into Arsenal's defensive third. As Rice moved lower, Calafiori drifted from the left half space into more central zones, effectively operating as an interior to give Arsenal an extra man between Chelsea's lines. James being pulled out of the midfield unit created a significant structural problem for Chelsea. His movement left a large pocket of space in the right half space, and Michael Merino immediately dropped into that zone to exploit it. Suddenly, Arsenal manufactured a 3-versus-2 overload in central midfield because Chelsea's man-marking scheme had been stretched vertically. Merino's presence in that interior space created a dilemma. If one of Chelsea's centre-backs stepped out to follow him, Arsenal could immediately attack the vacated channel with diagonal runs from Saka or Martinelli. If the centre-backs held their line, Merino was free to receive between the lines, turn, and progress the ball into the second phase with ease. These manipulations were classic Arteta patterns, using positional rotations, third-man concepts, and vertical stretching to disrupt a rigid press. Arsenal tried to speed up circulation, play through the vacated midfield zones, and force Chelsea's man-marking system to collapse by constantly changing reference points. After Chelsea went down to 10 men, Maresca completely altered his defensive approach. The aggressive high press and tight man-to-man scheme was abandoned in favor of a compact 4-4-1 mid to low block designed to protect the central corridor. Chelsea focused on maintaining horizontal and vertical compactness, shifting laterally as a unit, closing interior passing lanes, and forcing Arsenal to funnel their attacks wide. Their aim was to deny Arsenal any clean access to Zone 14 and restrict combination play around the edge of the box. With central progression shut down, Arsenal were forced to rely heavily on crosses, half-space deliveries, and long-range shots. Despite Chelsea's disciplined block and excellent rest defense shape, the pressure eventually told. A wide overload allowed Saka to deliver into the box, and Mourinho timed his movement perfectly to convert the chance and level the match. When Chelsea were in possession, Maresca used a very structured and deliberate build-up pattern. Chelsea formed a back four in the first phase with the goalkeeper involved, creating a stable base. Malo Gusto stepped into the right half space, effectively transforming the shape from a 4-2-3-1 into a 4-2-4-1 in possession. This adjustment gave Chelsea an extra man inside, improving their ability to progress through the first two lines of pressure. Fofana operated as the right touchline winger back, staying extremely wide to pin Martinelli, while Cucurella did the same on the left side to stretch Saka. Chalobah and Sanchez acted as the center backs, forming the rest of the back four with the goalkeeper. The idea behind this structure was clear. Stretch Arsenal's press horizontally, open gaps between Arsenal's wide and central players, and create clearer passing lanes into midfield. If Arsenal pressed with a front three, Chelsea's back four plus the goalkeeper immediately outnumbered them, ensuring a free man was always available to progress the ball. And if Arsenal went man for man, they risked losing numerical superiority in midfield, allowing Chelsea's interior players to make vertical runs or receive freely between the lines and carry the ball into the final third. To counter Chelsea's build-up, Arteta set Arsenal into a semi-man-to-man, ball-oriented press rather than a pure high press. Mourinho had the primary role of stepping out to press whichever center-back, Chalobah or Sanchez, was in possession. Behind him, Rice and Ease focused on blocking the passing lanes into Chelsea's double pivot of James and Caicedo, preventing them from receiving on the half-turn. On the flanks, Martinelli and Saka pressed Chelsea's fullbacks, but did so with tight cover shadows, making sure passes into the half-space players, Enzo or Malo Gusto, were cut off. This forced Chelsea to play wider and longer, reducing central progression possibilities. Overall, Arsenal's pressing idea was to disrupt Chelsea's interior access while preventing Gusto's half-space positioning from becoming a free outlet. Chelsea's goal was to create width, overload the first phase, and manipulate Arsenal's pressing triggers, while Arsenal tried to funnel play wide and deny the central connections that Maresca's system relies heavily upon. To counter Arsenal's semi-man-to-man press, Chelsea dropped Enzo and Malo Gusto deeper to form a staggered double pivot. This gave them extra passing options behind Arsenal's first line and reopened central lanes that had been blocked. Enzo received between the lines, Gusto offered vertical support, and these movements helped Chelsea progress into the final third more effectively. After going down to 10 men, Maresca changed approach immediately. Garnacho came on for direct pace, and Delap replaced Juan Pedro to act as a physical outlet. Chelsea no longer tried to build slowly, they switched to a direct vertical style. Long balls were aimed at Delap, who could fight for the first or second ball, then release Garnacho and Pedro into the channels. Their speed became Chelsea's main counter-attacking threat whenever Arsenal were stretched. Despite being a man down, Chelsea stayed compact, defended intelligently, and still carried danger on transitions. Arsenal eventually equalized, but they had to work extremely hard to break down Maresca's organized block. This match showed that Chelsea are becoming a real force under Maresca. Their structure, intensity, and adaptability make them a genuine threat to top teams, and a serious obstacle for Arsenal in the title race. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tactical breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.